I'm here with James Samuel, who gave yesterday a talk about leading software with context.
Yeah.
James, what is context?
When I think of context, I think it's something that surrounds a situation, an event, through which you can understand that thing better. More or less, like for example, maybe there's something right now, and then you want to be able to understand that thing. You need to look at the surroundings, signals, pick things from the surrounding to be able to understand that thing. And that is what I think context is, from my opinion.
And context is the most important thing if you would like to manage the team, to understand the system around it. Did I understand correct?
Yeah, including people. When it comes to managing teams and maybe software, you need to be able to understand the context. If you don't really understand it, then you cannot improve it. Just like they say, if you want to improve something, you first need to understand the state of that thing and what needs improvement actually. So, and that is why context is very, very important.
Okay, so let's imagine a situation that there is a talented software engineer.
Yeah.
Okay, and he was at one moment of time he or she hears, congratulations, you are a manager now. What he or she should be afraid of?
Well, one thing that I would say is that if that person was an individual contributor, maybe a technical lead or a software engineer, what really got that software engineer to that stage where he became a manager who's no longer making succeed in this new role. The skills and the environment will be radically different. You will not be dealing with code anymore. You will be dealing with people. And people are not that predictable like your code, where you can just write tests and then have enough confidence that everything will be okay.
Well, I like one metaphor that with code you can always roll back. Now, even if it's code on production, with people you always test on production, and you cannot roll back the things that you.
Exactly, it's very, very hard to roll back. Sometimes it can be so consequential that you might even lose the engineer. And once you lose the engineer, it's very possible to it's very hard to bring that engineer back compared to a code that you deploy and then you just click a button and then it's roll back automatically.
So you should be afraid that as a new engineering manager, you need to be afraid that you are constantly testing on production with people and you cannot roll back things. What do you think, what is the most important tool in the engineering manager's toolbox?
Yeah, I think one of them is data, being able to get data to be able to understand what you are dealing with.
So to measure.
Exactly. And when I talk about data, it's not only about, numbers or graphs. I mean, getting the information you have and having visibility is very important. You need to be able to know what is going on within the team you are managing, maybe through one-on-ones. And you need to be able to know you need to be able to know more about what you are building, maybe from the product and the impact they are creating. So I think visibility and getting the data that will allow you to have that visibility is very important.
Mm-hmm. During your talk, you mentioned about checking pulse of the process and checking pulse of the people.
Yeah.
With checking pulse of the process, you mentioned that you recommend using metrics like DORA framework or SPACE framework. Sometimes I heard from developers that you cannot define work through metrics, through numbers.
Yeah.
How would you encourage developers to implement this type of metrics?
Yeah. So when it comes to DORA metric, I think it's really great because it helps you to know how you are doing.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes they might not be very accurate. For example, if you are working on technical discovery, and this kind of discovery cannot lead to deployment. But when you look at the trend, if you can see how you are doing in the next 6 months, you are able to get the data. And if it is going downward, you will know. And if it is going upward, you will know. So, and when you see this, it's able to help you to ask questions. What are we doing last month that led to this higher number of deployment frequency? And what are we doing maybe this month or this quarter that's leading to decreased number of deployments we are having? And this alone is very crucial For engineers who might be wondering, oh, this thing cannot be measured. One thing is, if you don't really measure it, then it's very hard to improve. So, and that's my take on it.
You mentioned during your talk that importance of one-on-ones during the checking pulse of the people and what is going on. How the ideal one-on-one with the developer should look like? I know it's a hard question.
I think it depends on individual and maybe someone's management style. For me, I like to know what is going on with the people that I'm leading. Like, I would like to know their state. How do
Wellness?
yeah, like sometimes I start like, can you tell me how are you feeling this week? And this can allow me to know where can I support the engineer more. And sometimes I also like to ask, hey, this is where the organization is moving, and this is what is happening in the organization that might affect you. And this is important because it helps me, it helps the engineer to like feel like, okay, we can have honest conversation.
So we establish trust.
Exactly, to establish trust. And sometimes I also tell you, okay, this is the feedback I have for you. Because without feedback, it's very impossible to grow and improve, right? So and so it takes a different lot of questions. I think the biggest point here is that use one-on-one to coach, to know what is happening with your engineers, and at the same time to connect them to the organization so that they know where they fit in and where the organization is moving.
Okay, so wellness, alignment with the
Exactly.
goals. So do you think that during the one-on-ones should be gathered feedback from other people who are working? How do you prepare to one-on-ones?
How I prepare my one-on-ones, I usually have an agenda and more or less like a Google document, or if you use Notion, a Notion document.
But what are the things you put on the agenda?
So, so what I do is, before at the start of the week, I create a new agenda, and then as things that are coming up, I begin to add some of this into the agenda. So it does two things. It helps the engineer to be able to go through the agenda and even understand what we'll be talking about.
Right.
And they can also submit something into the agenda as well. And at the same time, it helps us to be able to have a structured meeting. And because we have an agenda and then we have all of these points, we can always refer back to it. Maybe during performance review, some of the things we discuss and all them. Yeah.
Do you share agenda with the developer before the meeting?
So one thing that I found is that sometimes it's always better to share the agenda beforehand. And it does two things. It helps the engineer to know that, okay, this is a meeting and then it's valuable. And at the same time, it helps the engineer to be, okay, I need to add this thing to the agenda.
Okay, so
Serve as a
prepare and
reminder. Yeah,
conversation more meaningful. More
exactly.
How often do you run one-on-ones?
Yeah, I try to make it weekly one-on-one. Yeah, weekly with my
That's
direct
often, right?
reports. Yeah.
When do you know that you are doing a good job as an engineering manager?
That's a tough question, but it's also very easy to answer. I will know I'm doing a good job if I can see my people growing, if I can see the impact my team is creating. Because as an engineering manager, your impact is not about what you can do alone or what you can do with your hand. Your impact is about what you enable others to do. So if I can see, once I see the impact my team is creating, it means I'm doing a good job. And once I'm able to make sure my team is healthy, they are growing, and at the same time they are delivering business impact. So it means I'm doing a good job. Yeah.
James, thank you very much for this short interview. It was a pleasure to
It was a
meet
pleasure.
you, and
Thank you.
great talk yesterday.
Thank you.